Welcome back to On the Slab Horror Show. We are at episode 3, and my main man, the podfather himself, Ian Kelly, is with me again. How are you, my man?
I love how this is just a running thing within the DPN, like that people think I call myself the podfather. It's like,
yeah, the podfather. You know, it's a term of endearment.
But no, I it's a term of endearment. I will accept it. I'm very well, my man. I'm looking forward to today's show.
Nice one.
Something a little bit different, I believe we have in store for these people.
Yeah,
of the world.
We are going to try something a bit different, and I mean, you know, we're not professionals yet at this, but we're going to try it nonetheless. As everyone is, I'm sure, is aware, we've been doing a couple of movies, but just to change gears a little bit. I mean, everyone knows, like, well, we're from Ireland, okay? We're from Ireland, and everyone knows that Ireland is a scary place. There is some scary shit goes on in our little country, you know? And so you may or may not have heard some of these stories that we're going to tell you, but we want to tell you from an Irish point of view. You know, like we'd have been actually at these places or heard these stories firsthand or secondhand even, and just to get a fresh take on somebody, like as I say, no disrespect or nothing to anyone who's done videos on these before, but there's very few Irish people doing them. So we are going to share little stories about two very, very, very haunted places in our little country of Ireland today. And I think the first one we're going to go with is going to be a place. I think you weren't there. You weren't there not too long ago, when you were near enough to it.
We drove right by it for the first time.
Wow.
For me, last weekend?
Yeah, it was last weekend. Yeah.
Last weekend, yeah. On my birthday weekend. So we actually wanted to go in because they do like tours of it, but you know, just like my fucking luck, it was closed, so the gates were closed. But good Lord, man, even driving by this place, you get this feeling, this uneasy feeling. But I'm a weirdo in the sense that I always walk towards the unease. I'm that guy in the horror film that like people are shouting at, going, "What are you doing?
Don't do it."
Even though I'm terrified, like, you know, maybe, you know, poker face.
Yeah.
But, yeah, dude, like, you know, when you announce this place, people will know. I mean, all people got to do now when they listen to this is go and check out some pictures of this. There's a website as well. This is probably one of the creepiest looking places on planet Earth. And, you know, this place is actually older than a lot of countries' history.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, in its couple of different forms as well. But
yes, sir.
It's obviously, like, it is classed as Ireland's scariest place. And we are going to give you a little bit of history on Loftus Hall.
Yeah,
that's where we are going.
In the beautiful Oak Peninsula, by the way. Any American tourists or any tourists of any kind actually ever want to come over to Ireland, it's one of the most kind of beautiful places you could ever go to anyway in general.
Yes.
But hell yeah, you want to talk about history? You hit with this one.
We're gonna hit you with this one. But one thing you'll find a lot about Irish horror stories, or scary stories, is there's the same narrative goes through. A lot of them involve the devil, and I mean that's cool actually when you think about it. But
well, it's our Celtic. I mean, like our Celtic. You know, people think of Ireland as a Catholic country. Being a Kelly myself, it is actually of pagan origin. So there was a lot of Freemasonry and stuff like that back in the history of Ireland, and Celtic pagans would have had a lot of similar beliefs to the likes of, you know, the Native Americans and stuff like that, and a lot of you know, a lot of big time differences. But we were basically gypsies, proper gypsies and pagans.
Yeah.
And so just wanted to throw that one out there.
Absolutely. So sit back, relax. I don't know, get under the covers, get under whatever you want, and we will give you a little brief history on Loftus Hall. So our story begins when a Norman commander, Raymond Fitzgerald, or Le Gros, which is the Large, the big fucker, as he was otherwise known, landed his ship at Bagenbun. I think it's Bagenbun head.
Yeah, Bagay Labone. Yeah, maybe that's.
Bagenbun on the Hook Peninsula in 1170, and it was in an effort to invade Ireland. Of course, the damn Brits, you know yourself. And within a very short time, Waterford had fallen. Right, so Waterford was taken over by the Brits. So then the Normans had conquered Ireland. Raymond settled in County Wexford and subsequently changed his name to Redmond. Yeah, I'm right there. Raymond had said, he settled it to Redmond. Redmond, what a name. And built a castle named, what did he call it? Houseland Castle. So that was,
Houseland.
Yeah, Houseland Castle was the first name, right? So then in 1350, around the time of the plague, the Black Death, that thing that destroyed everything, the Redmond family rebuilt the castle and named it the Hall or Richmond Hall. So it's starting to transform now into a hall.
Redmond.
Yeah. Redmond. So it's Redmond Hall now. And of course, after many more years and wars, one second now, after many more years, and battles, court cases. I don't know what's wrong with me there, Ian. Sorry. Court cases. The Redmond family were evicted from the hall, and the Loftus family bought the lands, and that's how it became Loftus Hall to this day.
Yeah, so that was during the Irish Confederate Wars as well. So it was there was plenty of bloodshed on this land around the Hook Peninsula and around this particular mansion. We call it a hall because it's basically fucking humongous.
Yeah.
And it was a battle, like most battles in Ireland at that time, that dragged on for years upon years. And obviously then it's when the family kind of ceased kind of ownership, I suppose.
Yeah.
And the Redmonds had been there for a while, all the way up until I think the 1700s, maybe the late 1700s, 1763. And he had to defend the hall one to two or three times against Oliver Cromwell, of all people.
That's right. That scumbag.
During that scumbag's conquest of Ireland. And so it's there's a lot of history in there, in terms of, if you're looking for history, just in terms of Irish history and how the Brits tried to conquer us, and why people sometimes think that there's a bad taste in the mouth of some Irish people towards Brits. We're all friends now, but back then, different story.
Yeah. And of course, the term by hook or by crook was coined from this whole area by Cromwell.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Of course, the family. So the main story that the hall is famous for is what we're getting to now, and
that's exactly it. Yeah.
So of course the family were playing cards one night, in the house, and they saw a stranger came up to the house from the sea.
A gentleman from the marshes, through the swamp.
Yes, and he was a stranger. They didn't know him, but he asked if he could have somewhere to kind of, because it was very stormy. So of course he went up and asked, could he take some refuge up there? And of course they, I think a lot of people back in those days did that for, people who were, homeless, or they hadn't got anywhere to go or stuff like that. So this man, anyway, he came into the house. They looked after him for a few days, and he was playing cards with the daughter in particular this one time. And that's the one. And of course they're playing cards. They get handed out the cards, and one of her cards falls to the floor. So she goes down to pick it up, and she notices that he has cloven hoofs instead of feet. So she says it to him. He says, have you got cloven hoofs? She probably didn't say it like that now, but that's how I would have said it to him. If you got cloven hoof, where's your feet like, And
it's up to
yeah.
me, mate. It's probably
Clap 1 for yes and 2 for no, you know. So
we say
anyway,
that we'd have been fucking out of there.
yeah, absolutely. Well, especially after what he did, he flew up in a fit of rage and shot up through the ceiling and was gone. So, of course, the legend is that it was the devil, and that's what they reckon. But the family thought that poor Anne was mental. They thought she was mental.
They did, and she went a bit off the rails after that because the family were actually away on business during this time when Anne was obviously a kind-hearted person, and he was a gentleman too, this guy. So it wasn't just a random, random guy, from the streets, because there are no streets there even to this day. One big long road. This isn't like a place that would have had a lot of there would have been a lot of kind of farmland and stuff around it, and marsh and stuff like that. And like I say, it's right on the sea. So I mean, you're talking about miles and miles until the next probably, lodge or house or cottage or whatever it may be. And so this is actually crazy because the tapestry room window across the sea where Dunmore East is actually today, she actually stood there waiting for him to return until she died in the tapestry room in the late 1700s.
That was her favorite room, apparently.
Yeah, 1775 to be precise. So she actually kind of had this weird, because she was actually starting to fall for him, if the full story be known. Because he was there for a couple of days. People fell in love quite easily back in the day because it was not many people around,
And nothing else to do.
But it is even said that when she died, they couldn't even straighten her body as her muscles had actually seized, and she was buried in the same sitting position where she died. So there's a lot of mysterious kind of circumstances around her death. But here is another little fun fact. The mansion has obviously been kind of redone many, many times. In fact, it's even different now to its old form at that time.
Yeah.
But that particular spot in the ceiling has been repaired apparently up to 30 times. And each time it's been repaired, the hole reappears. The dampness gets in and the hole reappears. So there is an aura about Loftus Hall. Anybody that has, and we hope we didn't butcher that for anybody, because as I said, it's our first attempt at telling these stories. We're usually doing movie review. We're trying to make it, make it as entertaining as possible for you. But I can tell you one thing. When I drove by this place, I'm not lying when I say that there was just an aura and a creepiness about it. In fact, my family who were in the car couldn't believe it. They were like, "Are you okay?" Because even when they went down to the beach for a swim, I was like, "Yeah, if you don't see me, I'm probably just walking back up to that gaff, even though it's probably 2 miles away." I wanted to hop the wall. I felt this weird connection to try and just even hop the wall and get over and just be up close to it. In fact, if you look really closely, guys, you'll probably see in the pictures that what you're looking at right now, there's actually a gargoyle overlooking the very front of the hall. And you can see how just grey and dreary it looks. And here's another little fun fact for people that I only found out recently. The staircase that is quite famous, that I'm sure everyone has seen, there's only 2 of them like it in the world. Do you know where the other one was, Carl?
Oh, tell me.
The Titanic.
No way.
The exact same staircase that was built for the Titanic was built for Loftus Hall. Both of them were made specifically for the same purpose. Now, obviously, the Titanic was a little bit later, but they're the exact same staircase from the exact same makers. Well, probably would have made sense, because that staircase would have been put in, in the 1900s.
Very grand and very fancy.
Oh, yeah. So that famous scene that you see, Jack Dawson now waiting for Rose in the Titanic movie, that staircase, that's the exact staircase you see when you walk straight into Loftus Hall. And it's funny because my better half's uncle actually said that he'd usually be a pretty tough guy, played for the Dubs and all. He even said, he goes, there's just something about it when you're up at it. There's an aura, there's a feeling of ease, there's just something not right. I think there was even a Jesus statue that the head just broke off it, and it's still there, and they haven't touched it at the steps because they don't want to kind of mess around with anything. Certain rooms you can't go up to even.
And I wouldn't mind, Ian, I don't know if you know that there was a film actually made there called the Tenants.
Yeah, I watched it there recently. It was relatively
Did you?
new.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's about the brother and sister.
Yeah, is any use?
The place. Yeah, I didn't really like it because, I mean, it wasn't a bad movie. I'd recommend people watch it. Like, it's decent
Yeah.
for a modern kind of movie, but like when you've got a place like Loftus Hall, I'm just waiting. Hell, I might do it myself. I'm waiting on someone just to write a script about this place that you could really go to town on. I
Yeah.
find modern filmmakers just tend to get lazy and almost want the presence of a place to tell the story itself.
Yeah.
And that's not really how it works, you know.
No, I think the presence adds to a story rather than telling it on its own.
Yeah, but I mean, Jesus H Christ, if you wanna do a movie around this place that you guys are watching on your screen right now,
Yeah.
just a little bit of thought. You know, you don't have to make it overcomplicated. I think that's what people try and do.
Yeah.
But you got to have a good narrative: start, middle, finish, boom. It's 3 steps I've found for success in life. But yeah, my God, what a look at that place, Carl.
It's gorgeous. I love it. And of course, I would have driven past it as well, and I got that same kind of feeling that you got, man.
Isn't it? It's something in the air there.
Yeah,
I mean, I've got the goosebumps are actually on my arm at the moment as I speak.
The hair on my back my back of my neck is right. It has that kind of effect on every Irish person. It really does. I mean, we don't really scare that easy, but when you talk about ghosts and that kind of stuff, you know, it's almost like we have a, you know, like a sixth sense or whatever, second sense, or that we can.
Yeah, I think so. It's our pagan blood in some sort of ways, because it's it's very strange, you know, like you see in movies, you know, even like in the Amityville, it's like, I mean, you know, a lot of that's based on a true story apparently too. So you can, it's like when they say something is calling to you, if your mind is open to certain things, it's like it can call to you. The presence, whatever presence is there, can call to you if you're open to it. I think that's the feeling you get with Loftus Hall. I know people that have went down there. Oh, it's a load of rubbish. I'll go down and do the tour anyway. Blah blah blah. And dude, they say that they don't come back the same person in terms of being a skeptic is one thing, but they come back and kind of say, right, I'm a bit more open-minded after spending some time in that house, because holy Lord. And it's up for sale apparently again. So if I happen to win the Euro Millions or this DPN takes over, I know where I'm buying. I'm not buying it, living it though.
No. No, you wouldn't be living in it. But it's so at the moment it's closed now. It's closed to the public.
It's closed for COVID, due to COVID, but hopefully it'll be back.
Hopefully it'll get back open, exactly. And if it does ever get back open, I think somewhere down the line you and me should go down.
Yep, that's going to happen.
Absolutely. And we'll do a little kind of a live walkthrough or something, you know.
Yeah, we'll have to have a couple of beers in there just to kind of give ourselves a little bit of a...
You mean a couple of spirits?
Yes.
Sorry.
I like that.
But anyway, we hope you've enjoyed our little talk about Loftus Hall, and you know, like we love all these. As I said, we love all these stories and all these places, and we, you know, all these kind of places. We have all grown up hearing about them and talking about them, and you know, scaring our friends with them. It's great, you know. So, if you get a chance, if you're ever around that area, check out Loftus Hall or do some more
research.
Research about it.
Research. I think that's one good thing that we can do here. There's going to be a lot of people that do know about it, especially over in Ireland. But for anybody that has never heard about it and you're into scary stuff, in fact, go and check out one of my favorite shows, The Ghost Adventures. We're happy to give them a plug. Zach Bagan's probably the best in the business. I'm sure you would agree, Carl.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they are the best in the business. They don't fuck around. And I'd go and check them out. And,
absolutely.
And they do a show in Loftus Hall. So
well, there you go. We might even put a link to that. So, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Loftus Hall. Okie dokie. We're out of Loftus Hall. We're going out of Loftus Hall now, and we're going to have a little walk. So we'll be back in a minute. So there you go. That was Loftus Hall. I hope I didn't muddle through it too badly for y'all. As much as I love me horror, talking about ghosty stories still a little bit scared, you know. So even talking about them, so that's why my big brother Ian is here with me. So
No, dude. No, I mean it's that's the thing when you're telling these kind of stories, you get super excited about them as well. You know, we've sat around talking about these places for, you know, as you say, since
years,
they're neat like the grasshoppers, you know, and you know, these are stories that I would have heard from my granddad back in the
yeah,
day, and vice versa for you, I'm sure. And
absolutely,
they're very, very Celtic stories, and I think our aim here on this one is to kind of maybe bring a little bit of bring up the subject to people that have never heard of it and
yeah,
kind of get them interested in researching it. And please do, you know, make sure on the DPN Dynamo Podcast Network to like, subscribe, smash the bell notification. You got a playlist for On the Slab if that's all you're into. If you just want to listen to us on the horror show, that's absolutely fine. There's a playlist there. But just make sure to comment on all these videos as well. Let us know what you like and what you don't like. If you've got something to you know, stories to tell us about Loftus Hall, or you want to correct us or even in any
yeah,
way or bring something to light, we're more than happy to hear from you. But we've also got another nice place to bring up to the
absolutely.
fine people of the world that are taking the time out to watch our mugs on whatever on whatever medium they are, whether it be phone in bed, whether it be sitting on the couch looking for a little scare or some reminiscing, or whether they're just sitting on the toilet and afraid to get up because they're afraid to look what's behind them. Don't look behind you if you are. Um, so yeah, we've got another place, Carl.
We
Would you
do,
tell them what?
and this place is another extremely scary place for Irish people, and a lot of us, I
That you
think,
can access anytime.
yes, it's not closed. It's a shell of what it used to be, but
And,
it's still
and
there, and
yeah.
the vibes are there. And I think now this is one place we've both been to, I think.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and like we the thing about our parents is
I had beers here, man, and I was like, "Fuck me!" There's some sort of monk on my shoulder. I don't know what
yeah.
this is, and I'm not even kidding. I
No,
was like,
I love the fact that our parents would bring us to these places thinking that it was a cool day out, like, you know, and then they'll say,
"Oh hell
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah." I was like, "Well, my parents didn't bring me on this particular occasion."
one of mine
Did
did.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't have been having a Dutch gold on this. Almost worried about what monk was hanging behind me. I swear to God, I could feel and see a monk just in
Wow,
the corner watching me. Yeah,
that's crazy, man.
yeah, legit.
But
Like, yeah.
so the
You said the
second
beers,
story that we are going, the second story we're going to talk about today, or the second place, is the infamous Hellfire Club up in the Dublin Mountains, which is where it is. But we're going to
Wicklow.
discuss Wicklow, the Wicklow, the Dublin Mountains. As you were saying, why are the Dublin Mountains in Wicklow? That's just
I know.
It's an Irish thing. It really is. Like,
It's only an Irish thing.
so again, we're going to bring you on a little journey around this very fascinating place, the Hellfire Club. Right, the Hellfire Club. The Hellfire Club, of which there are many around the UK and Ireland, lies at the foot of the Dublin Mountains, okay, which are in Wicklow, as we said earlier on before this section. It's a typical Irish thing. And of course, the site at Montpellier Hill was built for the Irish parliamentary speaker William Connolly in 1725. So in relation to our first story, it's not as old, but it still has a lot of history to it, all right?
Oh yeah.
The workmen used stones from the old passage tombs underneath the structure to build the hunting lodge, which is what is the Hellfire Club, and that was for William Connolly, and this was the beginning of the site's link to the supernatural. And Ian, you're going to go on from there.
Yeah, so I suppose one of the best known, and people are going to say, "What are y'all smoking in Ireland?" But it's a very similar story, this one,
Yes.
to the Loftus Hall, but there's a bit more. There's a few more stories on this one, I suppose, because it was more accessible in recent times to the public and whatnot. And again, it wasn't a manor or a hall, so to speak. As Carol mentioned, it was a hunting lodge, still a rather big building, and some really cool structures, but it was primarily a hunting lodge for Mr. Connolly, as we mentioned. But one of the best stories tells of a stranger who arrived at the club on a stormy night. Once again, invited in, he joined the members in a card game, because let's remember, that's all they had back then.
Yeah.
Cards.
Strip poker was popular then, you know.
Yeah, cards and alcohol, and that's all they had. One player dropped his card to the floor, and when he bent under the table to retrieve it, noticed that the stranger also had a cloven hoof. So this devil motherfucker just doing the rounds around Wexford and Wicklow.
He loves showing off those hooves, doesn't he?
You know what? Show what you got. And at this point, the visitor disappeared into a ball of flame in this one, which sounds a little bit more scary even. I don't know which is scarier, blasting through the fucking roof or...
Either one is scary, man.
Yeah, I mean, you had me at the fucking hoof. I'd be gone there.
I would have styled my pants.
I would have burst into a fucking ball of flames, because you'd have just seen my residue from how fast I was running. But this story, which is found in texts from as early as the 1930s, is very similar, as we mentioned, to the one with Loftus Hall in County Wexford. And the Loftus family owned a hunting lodge known as Dollymount.
Yes.
There we go. Which was also to be found on Montpellier Hill. So it's kind of strange, isn't it, that there's the two have actually got some correlation here.
Yes.
But there's actually a presence of the same family in the same jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Might put two and two together, you know what I mean? You're talking about curses and stuff and things following you, demonic presence and whatnot. There you go. And I've got a really cool story to tell in a while, not from my personal point of view, but a story I told on the radio as a 12-year-old that my uncle told me from the Hook and the Hook Peninsula, which is right below Loftus Hall. But sticking with the Hellfire Club for the moment, another story tells of a priest who also came to the house one night and found the members of the house engaged in the sacrifice of a black cat. The priest grabbed the cat and uttered an exorcism, upon which a demon was released from the corpse of the cat. So there's lots of shady shit that has always went on in places like the Hellfire Club and Killiney Hill, which we'll probably talk about at another time. Another tale tells of a club member, Simon Luttrell, Lord Irnham, and later Earl of Carhampton, one-time Sheriff of Dublin, believe it or not, the Sheriff of Dublin.
Oh yeah.
Luttrell is believed to be the subject of the Diaboliad, if I'm saying that right, which was a 1777 famous poem dedicated to the worst man in England. And according to the story, Luttrell made a pact with the devil to give up his soul within 7 years in return for settling his debts. But when the devil came to Montpellier Lodge to claim his prize, Luttrell distracted the devil and fled. A lot of this is what the great song that Chris de Burgh wrote was the Spanish Train. For anyone that hasn't heard that song, it's an absolutely fantastic one of Chris de Burgh's best pieces of work when he was doing really good art, you know. Other tales recount numerous drinking sessions and black masses, which we also mentioned, animal sacrifices, and on one occasion the sacrifice of the Wharf took place, believe it or not, in Hellfire Club. And at some point during the period, the building was damaged by fire, which we know. Again, very, very strange. There's lots of stories connected with this incident as well. One holds that the club set fire to the building when William Connolly's son refused to renew the lease on the lodge. An alternative story claims that the club members did it to give the building a hellish appearance, because they were obviously into the satanic dealings. And don't forget, for anyone out there, the Freemasons aren't exactly squeaky clean type people. They're very, very cultish and very into the satanic readings. I mean, Satanism itself, which I'm sure we could get into in a future podcast. Yeah, we will. Satanism itself is more a story of love and all this kind of nonsense that they say or whatever. But the Freemason stuff is quite scary in and of itself. So the idea of that wouldn't surprise me. But One of the stories recounts that following a black mass, a footman spilled a drink on Burn Chapel, Whaley's coat, which was obviously one of the guys there. Whaley retaliated by pouring brandy over the man and setting him alight. So there's a lot of fire here. The fire spread around the building and killed many members. And following the fire, the club relocated further down the hill to Killikee Stewart's house. However, the club's activities declined after this incident. So it was revived in 1771 and active for a further 30 years. It was most notorious member was Thomas Buck Whaley, son of Richard Chapel Whaley, and the new incarnation was known as the Holy Fathers. Meetings once again took place at Mount Pellier Lodge, and according to the story, members kidnapped, murdered, and ate a farmer's daughter. Whaley eventually repented and died in 1800. The Irish Hellfire Club disbanded with his death. So, I mean, there's lots of, a
lot more nastier things there with the Hellfire Club.
Very much so. Very cultish stuff going on there, and obviously there's actual verification for all of this. You know what I mean? So, even the whole sacrifice of a dwarf and all that was actually a true story. You know, people probably in the modern era go, that sounds funny, but it's not really when you think about it.
It is.
Probably just a smaller man than the typical Irishman at that point.
He was just they were sick of him coming up short all the time. You know?
Oh,
sorry.
Ian Dynamo Kelly does not share views of no, but it's still a beautiful looking building. As I said, you can still go in there. I am sure with the amount of deaths that have happened on that property over the course of years has not helped the cause of some of the stories that we hear. And as I say, anyone that's not familiar with like Freemasonry and stuff like that, go check it out, because you know people and there's not a lot of education for a lot of people on Freemasonry, but it's very a lot of it is very, very nasty stuff, and that's what was going on there. I suppose in closing, I will tell that story that I promised to tell about the uncle. He was camping. Yeah, he was camping. This is back in the 80s. He was camping down at the Hook Peninsula at the Hook Lighthouse, which everyone's familiar with. But that is literally only about 10-minute drive, if even, from Loftus Hall. And he said himself and his a couple of his friends were there, and they were camping on the beach, and they saw this black dog. And he said it was a very kind of gnarly, nasty kind of looking thing. And basically his story was that when he turned around, the dog kind of started growling at him, and he looked around at his mate and said, "What the fuck?" And he said his mate was just looked like frozen, pointing at the dog, and he looked and he said it was like a red glow in the dog's eyes, and almost fucking just basically scowling and dribbling at the mouth, just obviously wants to kill these two. But when they turned around again, the dog had literally disappeared, and in the sand was 2 imprints of hooves. And you can't imprint anything in the sand if you think about it. So this was either a really cool story from my uncle to scare the living bejesus out of me, or as he still says to this day, it happened. I know it's obviously, or else there could have been some sort of acid back then. It probably was. But either way, that's a pretty cool story. Like.
Absolutely. But we're going to close up now on the Hellfire Club. But like I was saying, there's so many nasty things about that place. And I mean, like, if you go up there nowadays, it's mainly a junkie haven, you know, but it's still...
Pain in the ass. I mean, like, the next time I go up, there's a junkie up there that, well, I won't say on camera, but get out.
Yeah, know? Exactly. It's just, like, you know, it's a pity that it's like that, but look, that's why we can't have nice things, and you know, because people ruin things all the time. But
people are the devil. People are the
devil.
Animals are the good part of life.
Especially goats.
People that ruin things.
Especially goats. Yeah. Their cloven hoofs.
Especially goats.
Yeah, goats with their cloven hoofs.
You won't find me around too. Even at petting zoos, They're the motherfuckers.
It's a satanic petting zoo. Imagine.
You got the darkness in you.
So we are going to leave the Hellfire Club now. Go check out stuff on the Hellfire Club. Check out pictures. There's a cool video I saw online of drone footage of it. It's really cool. So check it out anyway. And we'll be back in a minute with our ending of On the Slab.
Final thoughts.
So there you go. That's our first attempt at telling some stories of some of our historical places.
Tales from Dark Ireland.
And I mean, like I said, it's like we're only scratching the surface here. We're going to do these kind of shows every few weeks, and you're going to hear some even madder, unknown places. You know, they'll be known to us, but maybe not to you if you're living in America or wherever else. You know.
Ever heard of a banshee? You will.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, you know, we're going to get people on that have had experiences with these kind of places, and you know, it's all ahead of you. So if you're watching or listening to our show, you know, you're going to be scared at some point. At least one show you will.
Absolutely.
You know, but isn't it mad the similarities with the devil, as I was saying at the very start of the show, and how the hooves were shown? You know, was that? I wonder was that? Well, sorry, I wonder was that just a general story that they told, or was it real?
I'm not so sure. I mean, one thing that when I was kind of researching this was the correlation and the link between the two. You know, that the people from Loftus Hall also had a presence in and around the Hellfire Club, and that's kind of and we know a lot more in terms of how demonic kind of stuff, you know, a demon can attach itself to somebody or something.
That's
and,
right.
And kind of follow you. So I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, it's food for thought, isn't it?
Absolutely.
When you hear the two stories, it's not, you know, some people are going to be like, this is all bullshit. Well, then you shouldn't really be. This isn't a show for you.
Yeah.
Because this is a show for horror fans and for people that are fans of the supernatural and the paranormal and people that are open-minded to it, like ourselves.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility, especially when we see what goes on in this world these days, that, you know, I mean, look, the Freemasons that I mentioned there, Freemasonry has been involved in the royal family since the dawn of time. It's been involved at the highest echelon of power with the elite of the world. And this isn't conspiracy theory stuff. This is conspiracy fact. I mean, in the United States, you know, like most of a lot of the famous presidents of America, including the Bush family, were part of the Skull and Bones Club, who were very into culty stuff, which was involved a lot of Freemasonry stuff and satanic kind of, you know, ceremonies and stuff. So Bohemian Grove, all that stuff. So the Freemasonry is a big thing. And a lot of these people probably didn't know what they were opening, you know, portals, stuff like that. So we don't know how this happened. And I'm sure something probably happened at Loftus Hall that invited this particular thing into, you know, it's easy to say, oh, it was the devil himself, but for all we know, it could have been something in the form, you know. So it's really interesting, and I do think it's quite crazy how the two kind of stories come together.
Yeah.
That they have property in the same jurisdiction, and that kind of made me go, now I'm starting to see a little bit of sense here, because I am like a huge fan of the likes of Ghost Adventures. I'm sure you've watched it, Carl, yourself. A really good show. And like I said, I'll recommend it. Go and check out Ghost Adventures with Zach Bagans. He actually, about 6-7 years ago, they'd done a Halloween special in Ireland. About that field where apparently the witch cave was underground, where, believe it or not, Samhain came from. For anybody out there who doesn't know what Samhain is, that's Halloween.
Halloween,
Halloween. That's where Halloween.
We started that shit as well, so
we started that too. Yeah, we literally do everything. But yeah, no. So that's really cool. And on that particular hour-and-a-half show, we don't mind, because we hope to get Zach Bagans on one day. Ambitious, I know, but hopefully he digs our shit and he will eventually come on. That would be one of my hopes for this show, for sure. And I would definitely check it out. it's an hour and a half special where they go and see Loftus Hall, they go and see the Hellfire Club, they do paranormal lockdown, get rid of everybody there, and holy shit, it is creepy. So I'd recommend, Carl, if you haven't even seen that, I recommend you go.
I'm gonna watch it tonight.
Yeah, you got to do it, bro. You got to do it. I'll give you my logins for Discovery Plus.
Yeah,
no bothers, you got it.
Scaring myself shitless, like.
Oh, it's crazy. An hour and a half Halloween special, just proper stuff. But staying with our show, these are two places, as I said, that are kind of near and dear to our hearts. Not in a sense that because we want to live there, but just purely because these are the stories that we've grown up on.
Yeah.
And now that we're a little bit older and we kind of revisit them, it's still equally as eerie as it was when we first heard them. So we hope you people enjoyed our recollection, but also our presentation of these two particular creepy places within the Republic of Ireland.
I think we better let these people go back to their graves. What do you think?
I think so. I think there's enough spirits being lifted tonight.
Absolutely. So from myself, King Woe, and my buddy and my partner in crime, the Dynamo, Ian the Dynamo Kelly, we are going to leave you now. So goodbye from on the slab.
Stay haunted.
Stay hungry.